Welcome to Big Blend Radio with your hosts, Lisa and Nancy, editors of BigBlendMagazine.com.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to Big Blend Radio. You know, every fourth Saturday, we get to hop over the pond to England to chat with our friend Glynn Burrows. It's the English Connection show. We love it. Glynn is a family history expert, a tour guide, and owner of Norfolk Tours in England. Now, you know what? It's that Halloween season, and we can touch on that with Glynn. But also, coming up is November 5th. Remember, the 5th of November is a song that we sang when I was a kid living in England in the 80s. And anyway, so we're going to talk about Guy Fawkes today. So welcome back, Glynn. How are you?
I'm very good, thanks. Yeah, looking forward to everything that's going on.
I am too, because Guy Fawkes night was a big deal as when I was a little kid in the 80s, right? I think we were early mid 80s when we lived there. Who knows?
Right.
But it was bonfire night, and it was kind of like the neighborhood got together and burnt old things. Like it didn't,
Yes.
now I was talking to my friend Melissa, and she's
hmm
like, no, we have to go over to the park, and it's this many pounds, and this is included, and they have these vendors and
That's right.
cider, and it's a little bit different. And then we went to bonfire night. Oh no, it wasn't bonfire night. It was just a party, I think. Yeah, trying to figure what it
Brilliant.
was in Guernsey, but they did have a bonfire, and I did try slow gin for the first time. And yeah, apparently you can't walk as well as you think. But just say Guernsey and the Channel Islands, but they did burn things too. Um, so the burning of things kind of represents Guy Fawkes, right?
Well,
Wanting
yeah,
to
I
blow
mean,
up Parliament.
yeah, exactly. I think what it was all about was that we celebrated this in November, and a good thing to do is to have a bonfire because it keeps you warm. Um,
Ah,
but also we all when I was a youngster, we used to actually make a Guy Fawkes, a model of him using all old clothes and stuff it with straw and newspaper and throw him on the bonfire, with just nice friendly things like burning people. That
oh,
was that,
you can't do that to Wurzel Gummidge.
no, but that's what we used to do. Well, the week before, we used to make our guy, and we used to put him in an old pram or in a pushchair
That's right.
and push him around the village and try and collect money, a penny for the guy, and then we would buy our fireworks with the money that we collected with our guy. So if we
Mm.
if we made a really good guy, then we could collect some pennies from the neighbors and buy some fireworks. But you
Oh,
see,
that's cool though. That's fun.
yeah, I mean, like Melissa was saying, that the problem nowadays, well, I say the problem, the development nowadays is all about health and safety. So firework displays are generally organized ones now. So
Hmm.
you normally get one, the local school might put one on, the local PTA, Parents and Teachers Association, the local scout group, even the local fire brigade put them on, which is a good idea
That's
because
a good idea.
the fire brigade know what's happening when they're talking about fire. Um, and a lot of fireworks now are really big, really expensive, and obviously really dangerous.
Mm.
Not that they weren't dangerous when I was young, but they're much bigger nowadays. So the the danger element of things now are much more top of everybody's list. So you don't do so many at home, you don't see so many home, and also it's also less easy to have a bonfire because there
Yeah.
are a lot of new rules and regulations about people having
Do you have
bonfires.
homeowner associations and things like that, like we do?
Yeah, yeah,
Oh
exactly.
boy.
Especially in towns and in cities, you can't have a fire. It's against the law to have a fire in a
So
city.
all of our little, yeah, and I agree with a lot of them. At the same time, there's that edge of like, God, we had so much fun being rogue,
Yeah,
just burning stuff in the backyard, kind of like let's have a party. But
yeah,
um, it's kind of interesting how things develop, and I think the States has gotten to know Guy Fawkes, and um, that's where the organization Anonymous uses his face. And they go after bad guys, and you think
Right.
about Guy
Oh yes, I've
Fawkes,
seen it. Yeah.
and we'll go into the history of it because kind of odd thinking that they were going to burn something, is blow up Parliament basically, which people could
Yeah.
get hurt, and then you celebrate it. So it's kind of a celebration of that not happening, right? So Bonfire Night it's not happening, but now it's also become a fundraising kind of element. So
Yes. I mean, the celebration was based on the celebration of them not blowing up the king and Parliament. It's sort of, obviously it happened in 1605, so 99% of people don't actually care about what they're having fireworks for, they just have fireworks. But the idea behind the whole thing was it was a celebration started by the church. Actually, it started to be a church service on the 5th of November to celebrate the fact that we didn't blow Parliament and the king up. So that morphed into a general party atmosphere, I think. And now it's even got more so with people having organized events. So, like a lot of things, they start off with a church celebration and they end up with something that is nothing
blows
like
up.
nothing like the original idea. A bit like Christmas, really.
Oh yeah. It's fascinating. And Halloween, now are you celebrating Halloween in England? Because you didn't do that when I was there.
No, they do say that Halloween is probably the second biggest money spinner for shops at the moment, again, because we've taken over what America does. And everything is at the moment in the shops is all geared.
Well, at least we know you'll have better sweets than us with our candy here. You're going to be better. Now, do you have that corn candy or whatever? Do you have that with the orange and white stripes that looks like teeth?
No, I don't think so. But you never know nowadays.
Well, it's like eating crayons, and it's so sweet and sugary that your teeth bend as you even do it. And it's like you're eating teeth, and then your teeth are just like, this is too sweet for me. It's like eating crayons, very, very sweet, syrupy crayons.
No, I don't think so. We just
Softer ones.
Lots of different sweets.
Oh, that's good though. But that's good. So Bonfire Night, and that's a good time to make a good soup. It's a good time to have, soup, hot chocolate,
Jacket
those kinds of things.
is a favorite.
Oh, tell everybody about that.
Sausage. Oh, jacket potato. Well, we cook our jacket potatoes in the oven. That's why it's called a jacket potato, because it's got a jacket on still. And then we have it filled with whatever we want, butter, cheese, anything like that. So you just eat something really warm. A vegetable soup is really popular. Throw everything in a saucepan and boil it up and make a lovely
thick a bonfire soup.
Yeah, exactly, is what we do. We also normally do sausages. So we have, sausages in a bread roll, hot dogs. Only we have proper sausages. We don't have hot dog sausages. We have proper butcher's sausages. We have burgers as well. So, anything like that. It's basically anything that you can eat that's going to make you nice and warm, because you're outside on a cold night with a beautiful bonfire burning, and you're tucking into lovely hot savory food, and it's just a bit of fun.
And you know what, you said the word tucking, and that's something that I remember being the tuck box. Go to the tuck box.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
What's the tuck box was like the cafeteria, like you go for sweets and like like the Chippy, Mr. Chippy.
Well, when I was at school, the tuck shop was where we would go and buy our bag of crisps, or chips as you call them.
Yeah.
Our little bars of chocolate, our bags of sweets, things
Smarties.
like that. Yeah, Smarties. And that was just a few pence. You just take your pocket money and you would buy something in the tuck shop. But Bonfire Night is really for something to keep you warm, because November the 5th is very often a chilly night. So you want to keep nice and warm and wrapped up nice and warm and just have fun. And what we do, my son-in-law lives on an airfield, so that's a really wide open
space.
and we normally have a fire, and the children have a few sparklers like they've got behind me,
Yeah.
and a few fireworks. But the most of it is that the whole family gets together and we're all around a bonfire, and someone brings soup and someone brings sausages, and so it's a bring and share.
Oh, that's nice.
That is what it's all about, really. Meeting up
Okay,
with
so
family and friends.
but it did start off with someone being blown up. So I'm like, I think
Well,
because
no,
it's
someone not being blown up.
not being blown up. Yeah, but the attempt, and it was not just Guy Fawkes. And there's an image we have of all the conspirators, and everyone. Glynn's got an article up on blendradioandtv.com. Links are in show notes. And keep up with Glynn. If you're going to England, go to norfolk-tours.co.uk.com. I got
Go
it.
for it. Yeah.
It's only been in my head for years now, right? But really, the article, the image I have, and it'll be in the article, has all the conspirators, and then they called Guy Fawkes Guido. So Guy is Guido. So is he from Spain, or is he from a different country originally? Now I feel like I have to do family history on him, or maybe it was just the artist who did it.
Yes, I think it was just brought in as Guido, but I think Guy was what he was known as far
That's
as
a
I
British name. Yeah, it's a British name
So-
too. So why? So this was a church thing, and then it also had to do with the Queen and the Queen being a bastard child. Am I right about this? Or they thought that? Am I reading this wrong? Well, I'm just saying. But yeah.
The whole point was, Henry. It goes back, in the last century before 1605, because it sort of started when Henry VIII broke away from the Catholic Church because he wanted to get divorced. So the Pope wouldn't allow him to get divorced. So Henry VIII then decided that he'd start his own church and get divorced himself, so he could then marry Anne Boleyn, who was Elizabeth I's mother. But the Catholics still thought that he was married. So therefore, Anne Boleyn was not married to him, according to the Catholic Church. So therefore, Anne Boleyn's daughter, Elizabeth I, was a bastard because her mother wasn't married to the king. This is all what they thought at the time. And I can understand it, that if you were not divorced through the Pope, according to the Catholics, you weren't divorced. So therefore, any marriage that he had with Anne Boleyn, or any marriage he had after that, were actually illegal marriages. So you could see how they would say that actually she was not born within wedlock because they weren't married.
Wow.
This then brought lots and lots of different unhappy people. So they thought that actually to get the next monarch, you needed to go back to Henry VII and then bring his line forward. This is where family trees are really fascinating, especially with the royal family. Oh, don't even start thinking about the royal family's family tree. But if you bring Henry VII's family forward, it then actually meant that Arabella was supposed, or Arbella, so not Arabella, Arbella was actually supposed to be the queen. So even James I wasn't supposed to be king if the Catholics were right in the first place. I know it's very complicated.
Wow.
But if you look at Henry VII's family tree, you can see how Arbella would have been the queen if the Catholics were in charge. So James I shouldn't have even been there. So that's why they were all trying to do this, because they wanted the Catholic queen to be queen.
Now, going back to Anne Boleyn, am I remembering this right or wrong? Wasn't she beheaded, or am I thinking of someone else?
Yes, she was beheaded. I'm afraid so. And she was actually supposedly born in Norfolk. Supposedly. I don't know. I weren't there.
Oh, boy. So, yeah. So this is a big hot mess, literally. So here comes the Catholic saying, we want them in. Who's to tell them yay or nay if you've already got a reigning monarchy, basically? So it would be like this is like the game of chess. Let's get the kings and queens out, and here we go.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bit like me asking the Prime Minister to give his job up because I don't think he's right. He's not going to do that, is he?
Right.
You
Well,
know,
we won't go there. But when you think about
be
getting to
wise.
that point, I know, don't start Glenn and I in politics, because we'll just say that everybody's wrong. And anybody who's in office is probably there too. I don't know, but we won't go there. But in when you look at going to that, that was like over 4 or 5, that was a long, long time ago,
Yeah,
centuries ago. And
yeah,
then you're thinking about now, where we have all these protocols in our different countries, right? And still, we're still kind of repeating history in a weird way. When I look at this, and the States obviously, pretty much has done that. And sadly, and, I go, kind of bringing these things up is important, because just like you're saying, okay, now we can't do fireworks in the backyard like you used to, depending on where you are.
yeah,
If you're in a city, that's probably a good thing. I know that actually, like
yeah.
here in the 4th of July, it's a big deal, because you'll have a neighbor that's doing that, till 3 in the morning, and the dogs and the cats, animals go missing. I mean, there's some traumatic things that happen,
Of
because we're
course.
actually living closer than what we used to years ago. You know what I
Yes,
mean? I mean, we've got to think that society has multiplied, quadruple, like whatever, by the millions, right?
very
Across
much.
the country, around the world. So these rules have to come in. Not that we all like rules. I mean, I never did good with that at school and stuff, and whatever, I mean, I remember making little bombs, like not bombs, but like little, like pipe things, like, as kids, and we would, not any big explosives, but just, let's see what happens. And it'd go boom. And then we go, look what we did. Come on, as kids, we all did stupid stuff, right? But in this country, I'd probably be put in jail already. But things change. And I think even in how we run countries and stuff, they change too, for a little bit more democracy, a little bit more
Yeah,
go through the proper channels, which can be really annoying,
just a bit.
just a tad. But we don't need to have that kind of let's blow up something to get our way.
In
So,
theory, I mean, the problem is that nowadays there are so many more opportunities for people to do things like that, and they just seem as if that. I mean, what am I trying to say? In those days, to get a group of 10, 11 people together was really difficult, because you had to do it face to face. You couldn't just pick your phone up, or you couldn't just send someone a Facebook message, or, you couldn't, there was none of that. So you had to actually get these groups of people together, which was a lot more difficult. Today, it's really easy.
and not
So,
let anybody know. Everyone uses
well,
WhatsApp,
exactly.
all the criminal activities on those online communities, but
Yes.
but you're not being seen now. If you're getting together on horseback and having meetings, people are going to notice you, right?
Well, apart from anything else, you actually have to do it. You can't just sit in your living room and have a conversation with 20 people, because you had to all be in the same room. So it was a lot more difficult to get everything organized. Today it is too easy to get things organized, and I
Mm.
think that is one of the big problems. I know we suffer in England with things like football hooliganism, sports
Yes.
matches.
Yeah, I remember
So,
soccer people going crazy.
yeah. So, I mean, what happens is that someone will say, right, we're all going to be in such a place, put it out on Facebook or wherever. And then suddenly, instead of just having 3 people turn up, you've got 3,000 people turn up.
Ooh.
So this is one of the problems, that nowadays we have got mass communication, which we didn't have in them days.
I'm
You know,
telling you, Nancy's listening upstairs, and she's hearing this and going, thank goodness there wasn't Facebook when Lisa was a teenager, because what would have been a house party would have been with her 10 friends, would have been, uh-oh.
exactly. But
You know how that is, you
so
know.
so I think a lot of the problems that were going on years ago were quite small compared to what can go on now.
Yeah.
But
And now we have like
these things
real
still happen.
weaponry.
Yeah.
like crazy.
So, yeah, we have big stuff.
Yeah.
But
And
even so,
and it's
this could have
more
happened.
harmful in a way. It's more harmful now because like people can just walk it. Like here we have all these shootings happening in this country, which is not a fun thing
Yeah.
to bring up, but it's the truth. And they're behind a machine gun, whereas before, if
Yeah.
you were attacking someone, I mean, when there were wars and impalings and everything, they just marched and impaled and then put people's heads on in swords and things and poles. Didn't you guys do a lot of impaling? Was that a Roman thing
We
that
did. Oh yeah, we did. We had, I mean, this lot who were all hung, drawn, and quartered. They had their heads on stakes, just to tell everybody else that this is not a good idea because this is what's going to happen to you. But again, that is the problem, isn't it? That nowadays, mass destruction is relatively easy. But these people nearly succeeded. It was only because they warned one of the people who was going to be in Parliament. They sent him a secret letter, to say, don't go to Parliament today because you're going to get killed. So he there, instead of him saying, right, thank you very much, I won't go, he went and took the letter to the king and to Parliament. And then they searched the cellars and found what was going on. So if they hadn't warned this other man, it would have happened, and they would have blown up Parliament.
So their one good deed actually backfired and killed them.
Yeah,
that's twisted. Really,
but I mean,
it's a good thing.
Again, that's something that you don't actually hear about. You always hear about Guy Fawkes and all this, that, and the other, and blowing up Parliament. But actually, the backstory is fascinating.
Mm-hmm.
The story behind these things. It's about, like what would have happened if they had blown up Parliament. This Arbella would have been the Queen, so we would have then become Catholic again. And, so all of these things, just because of one letter, that all changed.
And this all becomes with religion and governance being one, right? And the freedom of religion. And I was thinking about that with England, and we were talking about this on a separate show. How England came over here for freedom of religion.
Yes.
Right. And then you look at, now we're in a country fighting over religious rights and things that go into people's spiritual and religious beliefs. And people are losing like women, birthrights and all of that kind of thing. There's all kinds of things happening, and it's very extreme, actually. You either really, really believe it or really. So there's this, and yet it all comes from some form of spiritual religious belief.
Yeah.
And yet we're the country of come to this country. In England, you think of the Mayflower, everyone coming over for, religious freedom.
Yeah.
So it's kind of interesting how we're going through this cycle again of things. And I'm not saying it's necessarily all positive what's going on because of the anger. But every belief is rooted in a belief, like a true belief, whether you're at the other side or not. And each of us have some core moral beliefs, and moral beliefs and spiritual and religious beliefs are powerful, man. Whether
they are, and
they are.
Isn't it a shame that we're still doing the same things as they were doing in 1605? That we're all basically about Catholics and Church of England disagreeing about a belief. As far as I'm concerned, you can believe in what you like, as long as you're not hurting anybody. Or funnily enough, I had two visitors last week, husband and wife. I'm just trying to be careful not to give any information away, obviously, but they had two different belief systems, which were not my belief system, but we were having a sensible conversation, discussing the differences and the similarities and what it's all about. And I was asking them questions about, what it's like. And it was just a learning curve. And we got on like a house on fire because we were just discussing and learning about each other. And that, why can't we just get on with it? You know,
I
it
don't know,
doesn't
because we're
matter.
human beings. We still got that wild streak of animal blood in us. I don't know. We are who we are, but going back in history and looking at things, I think is always important as a reminder. Um, and if you look at, the Capitol riots here and the insurrection that happened here, I mean, they wanted to behead part of the parliament, not parliament, people that were in office. I mean, the vice president, Pelosi, whether you like her or not, it's still wrong to go for death, you know, and this is a country of liberty, and this is liberty and justice for all. And so no matter
Exactly.
what side you're on, that is extreme behavior, and that is fueled by sometimes propaganda too. So
Yeah.
that's a thing. We also have a propaganda machine that is insanely huge. And yeah, way back when, because the propaganda machine, I'm sure, is all because that's part of human nature. Propaganda is, everybody has a vein of propaganda somewhere.
Of course.
And I'm using that word because I could say something else, but I'm behaving. But we all so there's always, it's going to be in different levels, but the propaganda machine is the propaganda machine that has always been there. But now, because the same thing, social media, all of these things that we have, all these tools, people could be totally just incensed over something that's not even true, or
Well,
partially true, or
this is what we've seen over the last few years, isn't it? Where we've got these false stories going about, but you see, again, going back to what I was saying about the fact to try and get 11 people together in them days was difficult, but also to really to get people together in a fight for anything was difficult, because there were very, very few newspapers. Very, very, very few people could read and write in 1605 anyway. So the only way that you would find out about anything was to go to a meeting and hear somebody else talk, because you couldn't buy. People like me wouldn't have bought a newspaper, or we wouldn't have had a handout, a little sheet of paper, because we couldn't read it anyway. So the only way I would be dragged into anything would be to go to a political meeting. So the way that people heard about things in 1605 was a lot different to how people hear about things today. So, there's so much more to this. There's such a massive backstory to what went on in 1605. It's a lot more than just Guy Fawkes.
And it also shows, whether you agree with what they did or not, right, that the people were passionate and belief in the country and the systems, right? And so when we flash forward to now, the present time, we have people that are angry, fighting each other and all kinds of things, and some just in for a good fight, because there's always that element, right? And then we've also got the element of people who just don't give a damn. Just like, oh, whatever, I'm getting on with my life, and and not really caring about their surrounding community or their actual country, which they'll act like it, maybe, to have a few words and grasp some headlines so they can make it through a conversation at work. But what happens, do they really care? Are they passionate about their immediate community, their belief system that way, and their land? So it's the extremism has happened through history, and it becomes radicalization, actually.
Yes.
Right.
Same thing. But the thing is, again, it had to be on a one-to-one basis in them days.
Like, it's hard to imagine now, right? It's hard to imagine. And now, because we have so many people, you could have a meeting and people don't even know, and unless someone was following you and already had like a note. But if people having to be one-on-one, it's almost like, this is what we're going to do, and you just go do it. And then how do you really plot and plan? Like, everybody, looking at Parliament, this is the time to do it, all of that. Are there places that people can go as visitors to kind of stand and where stand ground? Is there museums that share this history that people can go to when they go to England, or just at least go to Parliament? I mean, it's still there.
You can, yeah. I mean, you can go to Parliament. The actual Parliament that was there in 1605 is no longer there. Westminster Hall is still there, because that was built, I believe, in the 1400s. But the Palace of Westminster is Victorian. So the actual place that was supposed, going to be blown up is no longer there. But you can visit Parliament, and I have visited Parliament, and I would recommend it to anybody, just to go and have a look round. It's a Victorian building, apart from Westminster Hall. So, Parliament itself is all Victorian, but it's really well worth visiting just to go and experience it. And also we have a gallery upstairs, and you can actually sit in the gallery and listen to Parliament going on, which is
That's a
really
good thing.
good.
I
It's
think
really
so.
good. Yeah.
Well, I was going to ask this because it's just to go way back in history and kind of get some context. Nancy and I just watched a film about Boudica and the Queen of War, and
Yeah.
it was inspired by the true story. God, it was bloody. Holy cow! Like, when you look at, and how they had to get together, like you're talking about. So here's the Romans, and so when you're talking about, okay, here's the Catholics, and then you've got the Church of England. So Boudica comes before that, right? So this is a weird time frame when you think about, okay, organized religion, but at the same time you had the Celts / pagans, right? And at the same time the Romans, which were kind of that way, but also more on the like Catholic, but there's still mysticism around them as well. So where does this kind of stop and end? I mean, we still have pagans running around, which I think, power to everyone's beliefs, and Wiccans, and I'm all for it.
Yes.
Listen, no, I mean, I think I'm all into it, but there's, so everything is still there, but when did like that shift happen? I mean, did the churches take out the pagans to be able to rule, and was it the Catholics and was it the Romans who did it first? Did that make any sense?
Yes, I know what you mean. Boudica, or when I was growing up, she was called Boadicea. But
Okay.
now they say that she's got to be called Boudica. She actually was the queen of the Iceni, or as they now call it, the Iceni. But actually, she was in this area. She was in East Anglia. She was
no way.
Yeah, just up the road. That's where she was based. But actually, what happened was the Romans came over here, and she didn't like the way they were interacting with the local people. They were going to be nice to start with, and then they started to be a bit heavy-handed. So she got an army together, and she told them what she thought. Anyway, that's a long story again. Fascinating story.
We need to do that at some point. Yeah.
But then obviously the church was introduced, and obviously before Henry VIII, the church was the Catholics from Rome. So the church then the Romans bought the church over, more or less, I think you could say. And then we got more and more people turning up and converting the locals into an organized religion. So then by the time we're getting to the 1600s, we've had the split from the Catholic Church to the Church of England, and the Catholics were outlawed. And yeah, I mean, the Catholics then were not allowed to practice Catholicism. It was against the law. That's why in some big country houses you had a priest hole, a little tiny hidey hole for at least a priest to live in if the family were still Catholics, because they weren't allowed to have mass. So the priest had to actually hide up in a cupboard.
Wow.
If they found him, they'd have killed him. So, it's a fantastic story. But, this was what it's all about. And like I said, it's a much bigger story than you could ever think about writing in a tiny article. It's
But
so
that's
deep.
what I'm saying, because it's that belief system and what was happening then. And so then when you think about the English coming here on the Mayflower for religious freedom, they were
Yeah.
more of the what we call Amish, right? The Quakers that were coming over. So where did they fit in the scheme of religion when they left? I mean, were they
Well,
also banished like the Catholics at the time?
well, they were making it very uncomfortable for them because a lot of them were beginning to be a little bit more relaxed. And then there were also other groups that were wanting to be more Catholic rather than the Church of England, which was in a different way. So in the 1630s, which is only 20 years after this,
Oh,
they were then sort of really splitting up and making life difficult for people who didn't agree with the status quo. So if you didn't agree with what the people in charge said, you were in having problems, you know. So it was easier to jump on a ship and go to America than it was to stay where you were, because then when you got to America, you could do what you want, more or less, you know. And the Quakers were a quasi-religious sect. They're not actually, well, they are, but they're not. You know, that's another a massive subject. You know, we
yeah.
have to get some Quakers on because that's a really fascinating way of believing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and um, there's a lot of Quaker communities back east in this country in the States, and
Yeah.
I've been to some historic Quaker homes that were from the 1700s,
Yes,
and they were so little and so humble. Like you wouldn't find mirrors in there because they won't look in the
exactly.
mirror
Yeah,
because
they're very
that's
basic.
yeah, and don't any nothing to inflate your ego.
Yes,
Basically, they didn't have paintings or portrait. I think maybe you had silhouettes cut because that wasn't showing your face. It was like recognition, but not your in um really interesting. And they did so much in helping free slaves. They were really a lot of them part of the Underground Railroad, which is pretty amazing. So it's there's just there's tons as we talk, but yeah, I mean, it really goes into those moral beliefs. I mean, when you say, oh, it's easier to jump ship, it wasn't easy to get on a ship back then. Are you kidding me? Oh my gosh, talk about puking your guts up over the edge. Like, come on, it wasn't that easy.
oh,
Those ships were,
compared to living in
but that
England,
shows how stressful it
yes,
is. It's like if someone said to you now, you're going to believe in this religion only, and this
yes,
is, what you're going to believe, and you don't, it's you can't say okay to a person of Jewish faith, oh, you're going to be a Muslim or vice versa. That's how
no.
strong it is.
But
And
in a way, we
yeah,
are so fortunate that today we can do that up to a
oh,
point.
yeah, I think
You
we
know,
need to remember that. And it's
yes,
this extremism that just doesn't extremism ends up in an extreme pain.
yes,
There's nothing positive that comes out of that extremism
no. And I
whatsoever.
think all we need to do is just live and let live. And that is the secret to a happy world.
Yeah,
But
and
that
be kind. Be
that ain't gonna
kind.
happen, is it?
Well, we just keep trying, Glynn, and keep telling these historic stories and celebrate that no one did blow up and have a hot dog, the sausages, sausage rolls, right? Some good soup, some hot
Oh
chocolate.
yeah.
Yes. Oh,
Something
some
nice
hot.
and warm.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I love it. So everyone keep up with Glynn. Go to his website, norfolk-tours.co.uk. He is here every fourth Saturday and other shows that we put on as well. And keep up with us at bigblendradio.com. The link to his article is in the show notes, but you can also go to blendradioandtv.com. Thank you so much, Glynn. Always fun.
Yeah. Oh, we always just get off the tangent a little bit, don't we?
But we didn't get too political, did we? We just talked about religion.
Yeah,
All
exactly.
right.
That's not bad.
Hey, you're not supposed to. Let's do it.
Why not? See you later.